a brand new punter for this Denver Broncos football team as they signed Max Duffy, and he was a former punter from the University of Kentucky. And this is an interesting move because I think all offseason long we were talking about special teams. We talked about how Brandon McManus, for the most part, was consistent for Denver last year, had a really good season, especially from 50+. We felt that Sam Martin, in a lot of discussions that I've had with Broncos fans, did a really good job last year of making sure the Broncos punting unit was actually better off in special teams. In comparison to Kobe Wadman from a couple of years ago, Sam Martin was an evident upgrade and obviously a veteran addition that the team made here. But the Broncos, they went out this week and they signed a new punter to the roster, and there is a chance, and many people are talking about Max Duffy. And Max Duffy is an Australian punter. He played some Australian football in an Aussie league down there, and he sort of came onto the scene at the University of Kentucky. He became a weapon. Now, his story is very interesting. Originally, he thought he was going to be a basketball player. He was really good at that. He played basketball, thought he was going to have dreams and ambitions of making it to the NBA, and then he started playing a little bit of that rugby and the Australian football in terms of being able to kick the ball, and he had some great velocity behind a lot of his kicks, and his mom didn't even know that he was playing. So a really cool backstory on that. I saw a little bit of an insight to him. He's the most valuable kicker in Australia, according to what many people have said in terms of various media reports. But is Sam Martin's job in danger here? Well, when you look at the comparison that you're always trying to get younger in the National Football League, organizations like to look at ways to save money. When you look at the cost comparison of Sam Martin versus Duffy, you can get Duffy at a pretty reasonable rate. Not sure what his contract details are just yet, but it's not going to be what Sam Martin was paid. Sam Martin has 2 years left on his 3-year deal. The Broncos, they could save $2.3 million in cap space if they released Sam Martin after June 1st, and it will only count towards $483,000 against the dead cap. So the overall process and cost, is beneficial. If you feel like Max Duffy can come in, if you're the Broncos, if you're special teams coordinator, Tom McMahon, if you're George Payton, you put these two in a competition this summer. Whoever has the most efficient summer, well, you roll with that person. And more than likely, Denver here, they're looking at every option. And competition is not a bad thing to have. They might even bring competition in for Brandon McManus. We'll see. But right now, I think B-Max got that job locked up. But in terms of Sam Martin, we talked about it last year. There were times where the Broncos offense would be stopped within their own 20-yard line, sometimes in their own 10, backed up into the red zone. And Martin would have to punt. I think for the most part, he did a really good job of getting the ball past the opposing 50 in those situations. Historically, in Tom McMahon's special teams philosophy for the punting unit, he likes directional punters. He likes to be able to angle the football, hide at an angle to where it's going to go towards the sideline, directional. It's never going to be a directional middle punt to the middle of the field. You're never going to see that because what happens is, philosophically, if you punt in the middle of the field, you have to make sure your cover guys on the left side, your cover guys on the right side, take the appropriate angles to converge, and that's where you see guys, very agile returners, dip and duck underneath to be able to create different things. And we see a lot of missed tackles, a lot of lost lanes there, and that's why you don't often see middle directional punting anymore. You see often you're going to punt it towards the left sideline, you're going to punt it towards the right sideline. That's what Tom McMahon wants his punters to do. Sam Martin did a really good job, but Duffy is actually a really great directional punter when it comes to the sidelines. There were multiple times on his film at Kentucky, and you can go through on YouTube and find a highlight reel that I saw that his agency put together for him. There were multiple times he was backed up with his heels on the inch mark of the back corner of their own end zone. So one high snap, one snap to the left or to the right, a little too far, he may stay up out of bounds, and it may be a safety. Duffy had really great focus, really great control, and he booted it to the point. He had one punt. He booted it all the way across past the 50. It landed about the 40, and then it rolled to the 20. So, 69-yard punt along that nature. That's great. And imagine that at altitude. We know that the ball can travel high and far, and he's got this backspin. I don't know if you've ever been a punt returner, anybody that's watching this, but when you look up and those punts that are spiraling, let me grab this football right here on the YouTube broadcast. But if it's spiraling up in the air like this, that's great. Sometimes you see punts like this, which is great because then it's going to bounce and then roll. But these ones are hard because the more altitude that they get overall, it's going to determine the landing trajectory. And that was a big issue. You have to get underneath it, and you feel like the ball is going to land directly inside your chest and in your arms here. Often not the case because the angle is high and that's spinning. It's going to actually drop a lot shorter, and you're going to have to run up for it or you're going to have to run back. It's really hard to gauge and read at altitude. So Duffy's one of those players there. His career average at Kentucky was 46 yards per punt. He's younger. He's 28 in comparison to Sam Martin, who is 31. So more than likely, we will see competition at training camp between Sam Martin and Max Duffy. Broncos country, if you've had a chance to watch Max Duffy's highlights so far, what do you think about Duffy? Maybe his prospects of becoming the starter for the Broncos this upcoming season. We also have to throw it to the notion that, hey, you might have to take a really big risk. If you do go with a younger guy, you may have to deal with some of the more mistakes. Sam Martin has been a veteran guy for a long time in the National Football League, entering 8 seasons into the NFL. For him, you got to wonder, is experience more valuable than that youth aspect right there? That, to me, I think is a big question that the Broncos, obviously Tom McMahon, George Payton, and the coaching staff, they have to decide on this summer. So we'll see how that competition goes at training camp. I know we're going to be looking at hang time. My man, Andrew Mason over there at DNVR, he's always quick with that stopwatch in terms of hang time. So be on the lookout for that. But we're going to cover that all summer long. Locked On Broncos, especially when we're at training camp.